Thank you so much, Daniel Greenberg, Director of Sales for the US for Rivery, for taking a little bit of time in this rainy morning in New York. I'm lucky to be in Miami. I just wanted to chat to you because lots of people ask us about the pricing with Rivery. And obviously, like we're part of a bigger data stack for most companies, and it's a really interesting subject to discuss, just to give people lots of clarity on what are the benefits, especially since we launch self-service pay as you go, so people can like dive into our platform. So yeah, I mean, like in general, you've witnessed so many case studies as director of sales, and companies are trying to become more data driven. In general, what is Rivery's approach to pricing?
Yeah, absolutely. And nice to speak with you, Daniel. Yeah, I've seen in my 6 years or so in the data world many different approaches to pricing, and happy to sort of dive into what we do here at Rivery. So, consumption is our main focus, and it's tailored around the RPU or the Rivery pricing unit. These RPUs are basically calculated each time you execute a pipeline in the platform. So, the way that our companies or our clients basically measure RP consumption is, how many total pipelines do they spin up on an annual basis or on a monthly basis, and what is the frequency of execution of those pipelines, right? And then the concept is that our clients will basically commit to some sort of allotment of RPUs on our annual model. And that basically you will get a volume discount as you scale. So it's this concept of scale up pricing, and then for our starter or pay as you go clients, there's basically a fixed fee on a RPU execution that's billed on a monthly basis. So kind of depends on the model that you're going with, but there's either the scale up or the pay as you go option, for the beginning.
Amazing. I mean, like I was saying, like obviously when people are trying to build a data stack, there's lots of different moving parts. And each one has their own pricing units, solution. Some of them have minimums. And the person responsible, whether it's like, the R&D team, the data team, like what are some of the red flags that they should be mindful of when they're looking at like the pricing of these different elements?
Right. Yeah, I would say most of the red flags are related to TCO, or what we call total cost of ownership of our particular deployment, right? And there are several like commercial red flags I've noticed over the years when teams are looking to build out that modern data stack. I think the first comes from infrastructure management, because many platforms will charge some sort of fee for the services they offer, but oftentimes that fee doesn't include the costs of managing that cloud or on-prem infrastructure, right? So as the deployment scales, infrastructure costs will also grow, in addition to the cost of required man hours to manage the underlying infrastructure. So as a serverless and SaaS platform, Rivery users don't need to concern themselves with managing their own infrastructure. We take that on, and the platform will scale up or scale down automatically based on resource requirements. Um, Another thing I'd mention is also how basically consumption is calculated, right? So a lot of tools in the market price purely based on the amount of new rows of data transferred through the platform. And while this might be suitable for smaller data teams, the truly data-driven organizations that are going to see, consistent or sometimes exponential increases in data growth, might find it hard to keep costs at a reasonable level as their businesses expand over time. And at Rivery, our customers don't have this issue as we charge for each data pipeline, as previously mentioned, which on a per pipeline basis could have up to 200,000 rows of data alone, right? So you can imagine how cost efficient Rivery is as we scale. And then the last thing I would mention is the per user charges, right? Final red flag to be wary of. Charging per user makes it extremely hard to incorporate the entire data team in the modern stack without seeing unnecessary increases of cost and scale. And Rivery never charges for each additional user that we add into the platform. So
Right.
yeah, so those three things I would sort of call out.
Mhm. And are these things common practice? I mean, are other companies, and again, not necessarily a direct competitor of Rivery, but I feel like at times there's not as much awareness, even by data teams, of how much they're spending by usage or how the cost breakdown. And even if it doesn't matter, it could be the visualization tool or it could be like the data warehouse or like, however it's priced or broken down by team or by silos or by department. it feels like there isn't always like, the visibility and the transparency. But are companies across the industry really offering this kind of like flexibility and visibility, I guess, that customers need to kind of like put all these pieces together and really understand how it all interplays and the ROI ultimately of the things that they're using.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think the answer here is that it kind of depends, right? I think many companies will offer, quote unquote, flexible options to get going in the platform. But, in reality, the offering might be so limited that it makes it hard for, any customer to make real significant progress without, seeing some sort of upgrade or dramatic sort of uptick in their original quoted price, which I think can sort of lend to, untrustworthy practices in the industry, right? And then some companies can make it extremely flexible or if not free to get going with the platform, right? But sometimes those types of models lack really the support resources that are necessary to ensure, customer success from the get-go, which I think is really important. I think at Rivery, we kind of blend the best of both worlds in that we offer, plans that are tailored to companies across all different points of their data journey. But with the market leading support that guarantees our customers success, whether they spend, 1,000 or $100,000 with Rivery, right? At the end of the day, we want to make sure that our team is there to support them in their journey.
Brilliant. And kind of like a final question, I think, especially, and we just launched, I guess, in November. We've been like a few months into like launching our self-service and pay and you go system, and we've seen like a huge success based on people that just breaking that friction or those barriers for anyone that wants to try Rivery. So, what type of company you think could benefit from that pay as you go to to get started until they're like ready to commit to anything, I guess, or they just want to like try test it.
Yeah, absolutely. It's a good question. Yeah, I think there's probably a few types of companies that can definitely benefit from pay as you go. The first would be smaller data teams, I'd say, that are maybe just starting their data analytics journey. Oftentimes those teams really just need a quick and dirty way to start analyzing, the mission critical data that's going to provide immediate value to their business. And those teams, I think the pay as you go is perfect for their needs. Thinking about some other companies, I think those that are processing lower volumes of data might be another good candidate for pay as you go because, annual plans in the industry and definitely for Rivery as well, typically incorporate volume discounts for longer term commitments. But those discounts really might not be necessary for companies that simply process, lower absolute quantities of data. Um, and then, yeah, lastly, I think, customers or companies that simply just want to test the waters before, committing to an annual plan might consider pay as you go as a nice approach. While this approach might be maybe a bit more costly in the near term in terms of sheer dollars, it can really help build the organizational confidence, let's say, in the selected tool before that said organization, goes all in with their chosen data stack across, ETL, data warehousing, and most often visualization or advanced analytics.
Brilliant. So
Yeah.
basically, if you want to try it, or you're a small team managing a little bit of data, or you have like a small operation, it could be like an early stage startup, I guess, or something like that. Brilliant. Thank you so much, Daniel. That was like really helpful, really insightful, and I guess it answers so many questions that we get like on a daily basis. And of course, like you're on like dozens of calls with people like all over the US. So like I think like this is massively helpful once we share it with people that are thinking about trying Rivery and if it is for them, and in general for them to be more conscious and mindful about the different pricing models and how to like build that jigsaw of like, making sure that everything makes sense and ultimately like the data stacks delivers ROI in all the little pieces together. So thank you very much. And yeah, looking forward to speaking soon.
Yep. Absolutely. Happy to spend a little bit of time this morning. Thanks, Daniel.
Brilliant. Thanks.